It was close in the end, but Chennai played like a side who have won not just close matches before, they've won multiple titles, and it sort of showed at the end of a game like that. Chennai over Delhi, off they walk into the grand finale on the 15th of October, while Delhi will have to work their way if they want to also make it there for a repeat of this fixture. 172 for 5 looked a pretty decent total in the context of what's happened in this tournament, in the second half of this tournament. But Chennai made short work of it, or so they appeared to. They had their moments, did Delhi. Rituraj Gaikwad, Robin Uthappa ensured that it was not going to be any heartaches for the men in yellow. And look at that third name. The third highest score was just 18, but how valuable in 18 was it? Just 6 balls from the bat of a talisman, MS Dhoni. That's the way it finished, and we're going to assess it all on Cricbuzz Live in association with our fantasy partner, My 11th Circle. Joining me, Ajay Jadeja and Shaun Pollock. Ajay, resplendent yellow still behind you, but for moments there were little bits of blue being thrown on that, but they came through in the end.
Yeah, too close for comfort, especially when you get off to a start that you had and, where you were sitting, at over number 10 when we were at the Combox. Things looked totally different. There was a spell of about 2-3 overs in the middle that went just against the play. Brought back Delhi into the game. And, at the end, as you said, the man came out. When he walked out, honestly, I mean, no matter how big a fan that you are of that man, you have to accept that it just hasn't been coming off for him in the last few games. So a little worried at that stage, but I think all of us were worried, not him. He was sure about what he was doing, and with 2 balls to spare, in spite of having that bad run in the middle. So it just tells you the way Chennai approaches totals and, when they're chasing.
Shaun, they talk about Captain Cool being the old cliche. Now, this was an occasion where you actually saw it being enacted. We're all saying, okay, we need a finisher, someone who can hit a big shot. Jadeja's going to walk out. He doesn't walk out. In walks MSD, as if it's the only thing in the world that was meant to happen then, Shaun.
Yeah, I was asking questions. I mean, the form Jadeja's been in has been unbelievable, hasn't it? So you would have thought maybe they would have gone to him. Left-hand, right-hand combination with a short boundary was possibly the reasoning behind it. And then when that first slow ball went past the bat, you thought, oh, gosh, is it going to be? But then he smashes one over deep mid-wicket. And, I'm really happy for him. Everything he's been through, everything he's done for CSK. He's had a bit of a tough season. He showed that he had a belief in himself. He came to the crease, and it paid off, and he's got his team into the final. So it doesn't really matter about anything else. It's the big matches, it's the big opportunities, it's the big points, if you want to call it that, in the match that you have to produce on. And he's managed to do it for CSK, which is fantastic for them. Robin Uthappa was fantastic for them. He's come good as well. So we're talking about the older guys, but when it came down to the big tight match, the experience came through, and then the youngster Gaikwad was also superb. But Robin Uthappa's effort cannot be undermined. I think the pressure he was under, the number 3 position that they were trying to fill, trying to answer the questions, to step in and get 63 or 44, 7 fours and 2 sixes at that strike rate was just immense for a guy who sat on the side for so much of the season.
I mean, it's just absolutely outstanding. I know we'll talk about Rituraj Gaikwad. He'll most probably be player of the match. But honestly, coming out of left field, just throwing it out there, Ajay Jadeja, for me, Robin Uthappa, probably also a strong contender for man of the match, because he sort of set it up. He gave them the belief, gave them the impetus, and then Gaikwad just did what Gaikwad does.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'd probably give it to Robin Uthappa if you go to. He's the man who set it up, because at the start of that chase, you were not looking at a small total. It wasn't just you had to just stay around, and it wasn't that kind of case. And then you lost Faf du Plessis in over number 1, and he walks in there and he keeps that momentum going, because it wasn't just about holding wickets. He was actually counter-attacking. It was that first ball, I think, just middle that one, and from there on, he controlled the innings. I mean, all credit to Rituraj as well, who played the second fiddle at that stage. But if it wasn't for what Robin did at the top, maybe you would have found it even tougher. I mean, you may have still won it, but it would have been much, much tougher at the end. He took away the problems that, Chennai had against Delhi Daredevil. Sorry, not Daredevils, Capitals now. The last 4 games when they've lost wickets at the top. The seam bowlers, Rabada and Nokia, are the destroyers. So, I think he sorted that out. So he probably is my man of the match. I'm with you.
But really, the disappointment shown on Rishabh Pant's face was palpable. I mean, captains lose matches. They go out there, put on a brave face, and go, look, yeah, we played well and we sort of went through. He was crestfallen. He was like, yes, I just cannot describe how I'm feeling. We've got to rectify our mistakes quickly before our next game, which is going to be against the winner of tomorrow's game. They pretty much would have felt in those last 3 overs, this is our game to be straight in the final.
Yeah, for sure. And, you can't allow yourself to get too far ahead. I mean, you start thinking we're going to be in the final. We're going to be playing for the trophy. Now it's an uphill battle for them. Just down to little things like, have to pack your bag. If you had won tonight, you could have left your bag in the dressing room, not touched it, just gone back to the hotel and come back for the final. Now you have to go and adjust onto a surface that you are not used to playing on. It's going to be a massive adjustment for their batters, for their bowlers, the things they'll have to do. And we saw this is the case in point. This happened exactly to them last year, didn't it? They lost in this game, went and won that game, came back to the final, lost again. So they left with a lot of questions, a lot of disappointment. It seemed like they were on course to wrap things up. When they picked up the wicket of Moeen Ali, it looked like they were really ahead of the game, and Gaikwad got out. At that point, they would have been backing themselves. They would have honestly started to think, we're in. We've done enough here, and we should be able to get over the line. So you can understand the disappointment for sure. And it's the nature of a good unit to be able to pick yourselves up. But there's a lot of picking that you need to do as a management staff, as a team, as an individual. There's going to be a lot of deep thinking and regret, and then having to try and put that behind you and focus on the next game.
Yeah, you saw that in Ricky Ponting as well. When they focused on the dugout, it just looked like a deflated side overall at that time. Of course, they'll have to pick themselves up, but just looking back, hindsight can be a wonderful thing, Ajay, but just those tactical decisions towards the end. Who do you use? They had options. They had lots of options. When to bring Nokia back, when to use Rabada, and if to use Rabada. He said at the end that we just felt Karan was our man for the day. That's why I went to him at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it did surprise. I mean, I think there was a discussion just before the 19th over as well, and you saw Rabada, Avish Khan, and Rishabh Pant together, and they were discussing. And when they made that call and said, okay, we go with Avish Khan for the 19th, I was presuming. I mean, I was just thinking that the 20th would be Rabada. He'd come out and bowl. Whereas, he'd done it smartly till then, because he had actually choices. He had Ravichandran Ashwin left. You had, Akshar Patel left. I know, people don't think of spin, but if you think of, what Dhoni struggled against, it's probably spin more than, seam bowling, which is what you got from our friend Karan, and not real quick pace from Rabada as well. So a few decisions, but I mean, it's hindsight, like you said. It's always easy to, look at the game after it's over and say, this should have been done, that could have been done. But that 19th over was a crucial call, and I think they did talk about it. And once what surprises me is that, if he had that conversation about that 19th over, why didn't we see Rabada then? Was Rabada out of the game already? Or have I got it wrong? Has Rabada bowled 4 overs in this game?
No, he had an over left. He had options. So he had Rabada as an option, as you said. He had Akshar as an option. He had Ravichandran Ashwin as an option, and his fourth option was Tom Curran. Of course, Avesh at that time had 3, so he had to decide 19 and 20.
So just to maybe this is what happens when you plan before you start a game and say, look, last game we did badly. Avesh Khan had a bad last over. We need to pick somebody who's a specialist to bowl right at the end. And then when you pick somebody who's specialist to do that, then you overlook Rabada and go to a specialist. And I think there's a learning for all of us there, that, a pure bowler is much better than any of these specialists that we've seen over the years.
Shaun, try and be as neutral as possible without your South African hat on. At over number 19, these are your options. Who would you have gone for 19 and 20?
Yeah, I would think you'd always try and go for the international guys. Anyone who's had that international experience under the pressure cooker that is international cricket. I think Bishop said in the commentary that Rabada hadn't really been great, his facts and figures at the back end. So maybe he's lacking in confidence. And you do get a feel for that in a team environment. As a captain, you walk around, you can see the guys who may be up for it or aren't up for it and want that opportunity. And the key to it often isn't the skills, it's the mindset. If you throw the ball to the bowler and he's got that self-belief that, listen, I'm going to get the job done for our team, then you want to go to him. If there's someone else who's like, oh, I'm not so sure, yeah, Skip, what's the other options? Then you don't want to give him that ball. And I think Tom Curran has done it many times. I think he'd had a good start to the game. He picked up those 3 wickets. And they probably thought with the variations. I just think he went for the wrong option first up. I think the slow ball to the wide slow ball to Dhoni was probably the one, but it had to be the back of the hand one. So it came out a little bit slow, had a bit of a bounce to it. That off cutter was far too easy. And then once you've gone for that boundary, you're under pressure. So, yeah, it's unfortunate for them. But as we say, they're going to have to sort out who's going to bowl the last over for the rest of the tournament. I think there needs to be a decision made. You do need to be flexible at times, but, role identification is also good in the pressure situation. But how do they pick themselves up? Because it's been 2 close encounters now, both times, not being able to get over the line when they probably would have felt they should.
Yeah, they did. I mean, it's about the mindset, the same mindset that made MS Dhoni come out to bat himself, even though he didn't have runs behind him. That was probably the mindset that you needed to have KG Rabada saying, either putting his hand up or Pant tossing the ball to him and said, we know you've done it before, you can do it for us. So I think among all the things they need to pick up, Ajay, nothing on the technical side of it. They've got runs under their belt, wickets under their belt. It's the mind that has to be right when they come to that Sharjah game, whoever it's against.
Yeah, the mind has to be right, and it'll have to be probably a different mindset because it'll be a total different game there. It won't be a game that would be played at this pace unless, the pitch changes again. It's totally to be played differently. I think that's a game where you probably have to do everything at the top as a batsman. You get as many as you can in those first 6 overs. So there are a lot of thinking to be done. And I think the strength of Delhi was what? Bowling. Of course, batting's done its job throughout the tournament, maybe, one off game. But it's the bowling. When you have bowlers who are international, as you mentioned, not just Rabada, but I'm saying even Ravichandran Ashwin. How is it possible on a ground like this with a pitch, sides being so large, where the game had left-handers throughout the game, you don't end up bowling. So there is something that's being thought differently, and you're absolutely right. I think it's more the mind that they need to work on rather than the skills, because there's no shortage of skills in that team, whether it's bowling or batting. It's the way they are approaching the game, and when it really matters, I think they've let themselves down.
Yeah, I mean, good point. When we say internationals, we tend to only talk about overseas players. But let's club internationals as the Indians who have played represented the country and the overseas players who have come. So that gives you more choices. Ashwin's bowled 1 over in the last game, 2 overs today against, as Ajay said, a team that had enough left-handers, if you're only talking about left-handers being that matchup.
No, and I don't believe that he can only bowl to left-handers. I believe that he's a much better bowler. I mean, he's one of the finest spin bowlers that's around in the world. But that's when he bowls that kind of bowling.
Yeah, hence I added that line at the end. If you're only thinking of it as a matchup. No, fair point that you further put that up, Shaun.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know him, what he's thinking, obviously, at these times, but I just think he's gone a little bit away from backing himself as a wicket taker. And, I think you have to have that mindset and not really be concerned about if you disappear once, so be it. I might pick up a wicket with the next delivery. And even to the left-handers, I'd like to see him give it a little bit more air, give it some air, get them all to try and turn away from them. Whenever the right-handers come on, it's the carry-on ball, they're trying to spin it the other way, feeling like there's only one way to be effective, and that's going away from the bat. So I agree. I think he's a lot better than that. And, you can sometimes just change up the angles of where you bowl from, close to stumps, wide in the crease, but don't go away from your off-spinner. I think that one can still be very effective. And you do just feel that sometimes, as a player, if you're only getting 1 or 2 overs, you start to believe the mindset that maybe I can't do this job. Maybe I must just limit the damage when I do get my chance, rather than I'm being brought in to pick up wickets.
Well, just to wrap it up, just eavesdropping on Mahendra Singh Dhoni in his post-match chat. He said, I haven't done anything all season. He acknowledged that. He's been batting well in the nets, but just didn't translate out in the middle. I had to get that out of the way. So he just knew that he needed that under his belt. And of course, he had the confidence that he would do it in a red hot situation, not just in a dead situation. Dead rubber, very easy to say, it's a dead game, last league game, let me come and get some runs. No, this was a live situation that he decides to walk in ahead of Jadeja and go out and win the match. So Chennai are chuffed, Delhi are disappointed, but they still have another shot against the winner of the next match that we're going to talk about. Yes, qualifier done and dusted. Now it's time for the big E. Yes, it's the eliminator. This is a genuinely do or die battle. You come third, you come fourth, you have only one shot. This is like the old semi-final. It's Bangalore against Kolkata, and it's from Sharjah, a surface that maybe will suit Kolkata a bit more. But I think Bangalore have been experienced enough. They've done enough to know that they can overcome the 22 yards and anything in the mind. Let's have a look at the squad and see if we can find any possible need for tweaks as they go ahead. Ajay, they've been doing well-oiled machine now at the end of this tournament. The only question you tend to ask yourself, maybe, is a one-indu Hasaranga on a Sharjah pitch.
Yeah, I mean, normally you think of a low, slow pitch and you would think of spin, but I think this Sharjah pitch, especially when the outfields are slow, and that's what we've seen in this term, this IPL, is that even the seamers do a great job. If you've got guys who hit the deck, I mean, people who don't give you much room, not much up to you, those guys are actually much more difficult to get away than just pure spinners, because, you know, with pure spinners, you can still use your feet. And once you get to the pitch, everything in the air is still that same small size. So I would, not think of Hasaranga in this case. And I doubt that, RCB would be thinking that way. Rarely do you see them stick to the same side. Virat Kohli is not one of those. But in the last 3 games that they've played, they've somehow managed to keep that same side. So I have a feeling that they might just go along with it. He's the one who likes the whole momentum business. And I doubt that he's going to change that.
Which obviously, Sean, means George Garton, Dan Christian, they're the ones who are going to do the job of the spinner in a sense. Of course, you've got Chahal, who's outstanding. Shabazz is going to be there to do the job. So that third slow bowler's job will be done by the slower balls, the cutters. And Garton and Christian done enough for you?
Yeah, I haven't been overly impressed with Garton, to be honest. Dan Christian, I think whatever you get from him, he's more like a package where you hope he gets you some runs and hope he gets you a few overs. But they've gone for the left-handed option of Garton, and I think he'll still be hoping that he can have a big impact, like one massive game where he can make a contribution. I just hope that surface is better, to be totally honest. I haven't been impressed with the last 3. They've played on that end strip. I'm sure they'll move to the middle, or I hope they move to middle. It'll obviously be a fresh strip and probably one used for this game and the next game. So whoever wins here gets a massive advantage of having played on the surface. But I would want it to be better. I mean, it has been a bit of a lottery. Guys have run up, whacked in back of a length, and it's hardly got up just over knee height, which doesn't make for a great contest. And I think you just want the surface to be good enough that the batters and the bowlers use their skills, and whoever skills are better, rather than the surface having such a big impact. But I would definitely say advantage to Kolkata. Having played on that pitch in the last game that they played, RCB are going to have to adjust, and I don't think they've played their best cricket so far at Sharjah. And I can't see how they will make a change at this stage. I mean, we've been calling for Hasaranga just to have a look at him, but I think this late in the tournament, I think they'll probably just stick with what they've got.
Fair point. Sticking to that 11. Final point, Ajay, on Bangalore. They had maybe that question mark about the number 3 slot. They tried Dan Christian a couple of times, didn't come off. Srikar Bharat, obviously with that mindset and what he did with Glenn Maxwell at the other end, that will give Virat Kohli a huge amount of confidence. Number 3, sorted.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to give him a go after what he did in that last game, he bailed you out. You were in a fix, just didn't bail you out, but he actually saw you through. A little help from, Delhi Daredevils there, Akshar Patel allowing him to come back. He almost gave up. I mean, when he hit that 5th ball, he wasn't coming back for the 2nd. But once he came back, he had enough time, and then he finished that game. So I don't see, Virat Kohli moving him from there, because he's enjoying his opening. Hasn't had greatest of success. So he still wants to open. So you got, he wants to keep AB as deep as possible in that game. So Bharat is ideally suited for that number. He's got players around him who can, play at a different pace. All he needs to do is hold that inning together. And that's exactly what he did. And, what a finish that he had. I mean, for RCB, all these years, you've always had the talent. The problem has always been finishing games off. So this year, whether they are chasing a total or they're defending a total, they've won many games off the last ball. I think 3 or 4 games. Once batting, I remember this one. Then a couple of times bowling. So they've fought hard and won games, and Bharat has been an integral part of that. So I don't see that change at all now. Maybe one change. Sorry.
No, the only other change I think maybe, I just saw the list again and I'd forgotten about Kyle Jamieson. I think if you got a surface that's staying low, the height that he bowls from, I think he could be a handful. So that might be the one option in place of Gautam or Dan Christian, just to think out of the box.
Fair enough. KJ, possible chance in there. Tall man also gives you a little bit with the bat, so he could be a replacement for Dan Christian if it comes to that. But the confidence, the flair will all be up against the guile, a little bit of mystery, and the experience on the surface for the men in purple. This is a team who has won the title before against one chasing their very first title. Again, with Shivam Mavi, that was the one area they were just trying to sort things out. They had Prasidh Krishna early on. In came Tim Seifert in a bit. Andre Russell's not around. There's no real news of if there's any recovery from that. We don't think there will be. But again, Ajay, settled 11?
Yeah, almost settled 11. I mean, if there is a worry, that's been the captain with his batting form, because everybody else just seemed to be flowing beautifully. I mean, Rahul Tripaঠি's probably, turned it all around. With Iyer joining him, you see a different energy with that team while they're batting and the way they approach. This year, there's that certainty. At least they're going this way. There's no up and down anymore with them. And with their bowling, they've always been, smart. They've used those two, mystery spinners. I think that's been the key. Ever since Russell went out, you feel that maybe that fifth bowler, they've got away a couple of times with Iyer bowling a few there. But the solidity that, when Russell was playing, and not as a batsman, but as pure bowler. So, I mean, if it was me, I'd probably add another pure bowler in there. And because, they've added Shakib. I know Shakib gives you, a different kind of solidness that you need. But with his batting, and since you're not using him at the top, so his batting is not useful there. And if you're going to bowl him right at the top, you could actually do with the seamer as well. So that's a choice that they'll have to make. If it was me, I would probably go with another seamer in that side.
Interesting call there, because we looked at Shakib, bowled that first over, took a wicket in the last game, didn't come back to bowl again, obviously batting even below an out of form Owen Morgan. So for whatever reason, they don't trust his batting, Shaun. So it could be just an interesting thought over there, because they definitely need a full bowling unit. We saw what happened with 4.5 bowlers in the match before that. So, Shaun, are you sort of concurrent with trying to sneak in another full-time bowler?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. I think it'll all go down to that surface as well. And I hope they're not surprised by what they get. Having played on the pitch they did the other day, as a fast bowler, you could run up and just whack back of a length as hard as you want. It stayed down. It made it really difficult to hit. I would think it would be a new pitch and it might come on better. That's the only thing that would play in the back of my mind is can they adjust their bowling to maybe a slightly better Sharjah surface that isn't holding up, that isn't turning as much. But yeah, I would definitely just go down on the day, have a look at the surface and see what you're going to get. And if it's going to be maybe assisting the faster bowlers, I'll have no problem. Because as you say, I mean, Shakib, he for me is a quality batter, and what he's done for Bangladesh with the bat is immense. But they're not using him at all. It really is almost a wasted position if you're looking for a batting contribution.
Fair point. Maybe just to conclude on this, one last quick look at that squad, Ajay. If you do think you want to get one in, who's the man for you? Prasidh Krishna obviously is a contender. But if you're going Shakib Al Hasan, you have the option for Tim Saudi as well.
I think Prasidh Krishna, I thought he was bowling really well. He had that one bad over and I think they've left him out. Maybe they just want to leave the standards high, because Saudi is an outstanding bowler, international class, but he's not the kind that you would use on that wicket, what we were just mentioning. Somebody who comes and hits the deck. Prasidh Krishna probably hits the deck much more than that. So in that case, if you want an Indian where you want to change, then Prasidh Krishna can come in for I'll have to go back to look at that, but he's the one, and Lockie Ferguson's already playing. So
Shakib, you were the one saying if Shakib's the only one.
No, I was
So
looking
Shakib
at the,
goes.
one more fast bowler. No, yeah, I mean you could
Shivam
change
Mavi
one.
isn't going anywhere. He's
No,
bowled
he isn't
enough to
going
stay in
anywhere.
there for another year. So I guess the only one is take Shakib out, and you have the option of Saudi. You have the option of going with 3 overseas, go with Prasidh Krishna, or even a Ben Cutting who's been pushing to get in. But again, if that's
Uh,
batting
if
insurance.
if you give me those three choices on the which kind of pitch that we've seen in Sharjah, then Prasidh Krishna and not Saudi. Not trying to say who's better or worse. It's just on that particular day, the conditions. And this is a team that plays conditions probably better than anyone else.
Fair point. So it's going to be the flair against the experience. Lots to look forward to. Eliminator from Sharjah, and the winner of this match goes on to meet the disappointed Delhi side. Just another reminder, this is the graphic that, in case you're coming to terms with it, very simple. Delhi Chennai winner has flown straight to the same ground. They will await the winner of the next 2 games. So winner of Bangalore Kolkata goes and meets the Delhi team who have lost today, and that winner will play the grand finale on the 15th of October. Well, we've got a question to answer for you, which is, of course, our joy factor question, which we asked you at the very start of the game. Here's a reminder of what the question was. The first time this happened in a test match, Billy Murdoch got a double 100. The last time it happened, Chris Gale got a triple 100. What was this thing that happened? Let's give you the answer first.
I'm going to have
first, Sean.
Can I have a crack at it? I forgot
it.
about it. But when it came out, I mean, I don't know if I was in that game. I could have been in that game when Gale got 300. But is it not the case? Well, I know you got a big 200, so I don't know if it was the 300 or a 200. But I'm thinking, was it the fact that every single person in the team bowled? Because I know Mark Boucher took his gloves off and bowled. So is it?
There you go.
Yes. Yes, I was playing. Oh my gosh.
You're losing it, Sean. You're forgetting things. Or is it selective? Some games to be forgotten.
Just selective things.
This is one of those games.
Oh, this is one of those. I can remember it was an absolute belter. We twirled, and Mark Boucher got a wicket. He never lets us forget.
Well, I can tell you, I was I was there present at a test match in between. We're, of course, talking about the first and the last. 2002, Ajay, India versus West Indies at St. John's, Antigua. All 11 from the Indian team bowled, including Rahul Dravid, VVS Lakshman, Ajay Ratra, who was keeping. He came and turned his arm over while Dravid kept. So it was just a high-scoring, boring draw. And this was the one record that India had. All 11 Indians bowled in that particular match. But we are, of course, talking extremities. And let's find out who got that answer. The answer was from Manan Mehta. He's back again. The Nuffy is back. He taught us what Nuffy means. And we now know that when in doubt, go to the cricket Nuffy. Well done, Manan, once again for getting that. Just a little quote to throw at all of you. Virat Kohli was ready with his phone, and as he saw that last ball, out came a tweet from the man himself. And the king is back. The greatest finisher in the game made me jump out of my seat once again tonight. I can tell you, Virat Kohli wouldn't be the only one jumping out of their seat. Many Chennai fans, India fans, neutral cricket fans would have jumped out of their seat to see the great finisher back again, taking Chennai to the final once again. That's all we have tonight. We're going to see you very, very shortly at the same time at the start of Eliminator. Thank you, Shaun Pollock. Thank you, Ajay Jadeja. And thank you to all of you for joining us. This is Cricbuzz Live in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle.